Hi, I'm Roxanne Richardson, and this is Technique Tuesday. The double twist cast-on is an exceptionally stretchy cast-on. It is the cast-on recommended for the wider neck version of the Ranunculus sweater. Other video tutorials use a different process for the double twist cast-on than the one I will demonstrate today. I find this method both easier and more versatile than the other method. After the demonstration, I will compare its stretchability to 3 other commonly used cast-on methods. So let's get started. I'm going to demonstrate with this really thick yarn because I think it'll be easier to see what's going on with the edge later on so you can understand what's happening. So I'm going to start with a slip knot, and this does not count as a stitch. This is just to anchor the yarn right here. This cast on can be done with the needle in the left hand or the needle in the right hand. Either way will work, and I will show you both of those. What I find the easiest to do is to create kind of a large loop. And so this is the end connected to the ball. So create a loop and just grasp that so that I have this loop here. I'm going to create, they're calling this a double twist. It's really 1.5 twists. So if I want the yarn to twist to the left, I've got my finger through the hole pointing toward me. If I go like this, you see how the yarns are twisted over once to the left. I twist again, and now there's 2 twists, and now I do a third time like that. So we can count 1 crossing, 2 crossing, and then the third crossing. So we want the needle to come to maintain that third crossing by coming through the front of the loop like this. And I just put my finger on it to hold it in place, and I'm still holding the yarn against the needle, and I'm just going to tighten this up so that it comes up to the needle. I don't want to tighten it up like this. The tighter you make it, the less stretch you get, so that kind of defeats the purpose. So let's do that again. I've got the loop, my fingers pointed toward me. I've got 1 cross, 2 cross, and then now I'm pointing back away from myself, and I have the 3 crosses. That's 1.5 twists, full twists. Put my needle in it, and then I can pull on this. I want it to come up to the needle, but I don't want it to be super tight. So once again, fingers pointing at me. 1, 2, 3, fingers pointed away. Get my finger in there, or the needle in there. And then I can tighten it up a bit. But again, not super tight. If I need to, I can pull on this a little bit to get more slack. 1, 2, 3. Through the front. I just put my finger on there so it doesn't slide off. And I can pull it up. So when you get a rhythm, you get a little bit of muscle memory, it can go pretty fast. One, two, three. Slow down again. 1, 2, 3. I've got 3 crossings. Now this is having it twist to the left. You can see it's going to the left. If I wanted it to twist to the right, I could, and I just go in the opposite direction. So now you can see it's crossing to the right. So I'd go, and then I would come, so I've got the 3 crossings, and I would come in from behind in order to tighten it. So that's going the other way. So you can choose which way you want. Now if you want to do it in your right hand, have the needle in your right hand, again, you make this loop, and you're going to go in the opposite direction that you went when it was in your right hand in order to make the same twist. So if I want to do a left twist, I'm going to go down like this, because then you can see it's twisting left. So that's 1 twist, 2 twists, 3 twists, and I come from behind in this case in order to tighten it up. So you can do it in either way. And again, if you want to go to the right, you would go upwards, 1, 2, 3, and then you would go through the front. All right, so I've cast on 32 stitches, and plus I have this slip knot, which again doesn't count. At any point you can let this fall off the needle and everything will be fine. So you have two choices here. One is that you can hold the needle with the yarn that's dangling down from it in your left hand, and you can work straight across all of these stitches, and then if you need to join in the round, you can join in the round. So the advantage of doing that is that you can work across, and if you find that you're accumulating a little bit of slack in between the stitches as you go, when you get to the slip knot and you knock that off, all that extra slack will fall off the needle, and then you can join in the round. The downside of knitting straight across is that you are turning back on the last stitch that you worked, and this one will look a little bit different if you need to join in the round. But you can do either one. It's fine. Both of them will work. Your other choice is to hold this needle in your right hand and join in the round, starting with the one that you first cast on where that tail is. And then again, you're not going to be working in pattern yet. If you have a ribbing pattern, you're going to be knitting this regardless of whether you're going to knit flat first before joining in the round or you're going to join in the round. That first row or round is going to be knit. You're not working it in pattern. I'm going to join this in the round right now, and if you're unsure about what you would like to do, try it out on a swatch and see which approach you like better. So I have a really long needle, so I'm going to be using the magic loop technique for this, but if you had a bunch of stitches loaded up on a circular needle where they all fit, you just join in the round. So this is the last stitch that was worked, and so the next one that I want to work is on this needle, but this is the slip knot. I don't want to work that. I let it slide off the needle, and I can just pull that out, and that's fine. So now I'm going to join in the round, and I'm just going to knit across all of these stitches. So I'm going to work my round and then I will come back. So I just wanted to demonstrate as I'm knitting, I'm keeping my needles close to each other. If you are knitting and you tend to pull things apart, that's where you're going to get that extra slack. And what you're doing is taking slack and stretch out of the stitches on the needle. But if you have that problem where you accumulate slack, that might be one reason why you might want to knit a row first, rather than joining in the round right away. But if you keep the stitches close to the tips and you don't pull them apart from each other, you'll retain all of that stretch that you have built into those stitches when you cast them on with the twists. I have joined in the round and worked that first round, and you can see that everything under the needle has a twist. If we pull this down, we can see that then there's another twist that hides under this edge one, but there is another twist here. So we have this twist, and that twist. And that all that stored twist in there helps keep the edge close and not flared. But when you want that stretch, it can really pull apart from itself. So let's compare these three swatches. We'll compare the tubular one as well. I wanted to just compare these specifically because this is the long tail cast on. This is a cast on that has a half a twist. So if we look at the edge, we can see that these stitches at the base cross each other, but it's just making a half twist. It's an edge that looks like this. So that's a half twist. This one right here is the German twisted cast on, or the old Norwegian cast on. So if we look at the German twisted cast on, we have got a full twist. We've got this strand and this strand that are crossing over. It looks like to crossing to the right, that is a full twist. This is the long tail, and this is what the twisted German cast on or old Norwegian cast on is doing. And so this one stores some extra stretch into it. And then this one is the double twist that I just showed you, which really is 1.5 full twists, where when we pull this down, we've got the 3, and these are going to the left. We could, again, make them go to the right like the other ones, but they wouldn't look as nice with a twisted rib. So let's compare how stretchy they are. All right, so all of these have 32 stitches. I'm going to use these double pointed needles to kind of help me stretch these as much as I can. Make sure that they're both up there. I didn't want to bind anything off here because I wanted to keep the fabric as unconstrained as I could. So we could see how much so this is my version of the long tail cast on, and I am able to cast on the long tail to give quite a bit of slack. So I'm getting, let's move that back to it's at 0. So I can get to 5 inches with this. I can get this really stretchy, but the edge is usually kind of loose-ish looking. So the extra slack that I put into the long tail cast on can usually be seen pretty easily. So let's look at the twisted German. Now, a lot of people say that their twisted German is stretchier than their long tail. I don't usually find that to be the case, and it's probably with the way I execute my twisted German. Just I might be a little tighter, but we'll see if I get stretchier with this. And actually, I'm just exactly the same with this one. So I probably could make this stretchier if I execute it a little bit differently. So now let's look at this one. This is the double twist. And this I've got more stretch. I can get to almost like 6 inches. So this is definitely a stretchier edge for me than either one of the other two. The other two are the same for me, but this one is definitely stretchier. And those twists, it creates a different looking edge, but those twists are pulling in when they're more pulled in when they're relaxed than, say, the long tail cast on. So the last thing I want to compare it to is a tubular cast on. Now I used a twisted tubular cast on just because everything else was twisted. And I used the same needle size to cast on that I used for the ribbing. In most cases with a tubular or Italian cast on, you might choose to use a needle 1 or 2 sizes smaller so that the stitch sizes are more similar. These are a little bit bigger than the other ones, but I wanted everything to be done on the same needle size and to compare those directly. So let's stretch this as far as we go. And I am actually not able to stretch it as much as I could the long tail or the twisted German. This is certainly stretchy. You can see it's stretching, but if I wanted the stretchy cast on, I might not choose this over something else. If I needed something really stretchy, then I would use something like this. And an example of that might be if you are knitting socks. And in order to get past your heel, that has to be really stretchy. The fabric has to stretch as well, but this is an edge that is probably not going to create the kind of resistance that you can get with the long tail or for me, the twisted German. This definitely does stretch more, and you have to decide if that edge is something that you like, or if you don't care what the edge looks like, if you can get that amount of stretch. I have a whole playlist of videos demonstrating various cast-on methods, which you can find over here. If you have any comments or questions about today's video or suggestions for videos you'd like to see in the future, you can leave those down in the comments below, or join the discussion in my Ravelry group, Rox Rocks. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.